Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Straight Up Show podcast. I am your host, Calvin. If you guys have not heard, Mike Tyson is coming out of retirement. Yes, the boxer Mike Tyson is coming out of retirement to fight Roy Jones Jr. this weekend, November 28th. And I think I know it's how it's going to go, but I'm not really a fighter. So on today's show, I'm going to bring in two professional fighters. One has met Mike Tyson, and one is currently fighting in the UFC. But both are professional fighters. But first, let's get started. Somebody I've known most of my life, all my life, really. It's like a brother to me. I love him to death. Help me welcome Blake Trouble Franklin. How you doing, there, Blake?
Doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And then up next, we have Mr. The number 10 flyweight of the UFC, Mr. Matt Danger Schnell. How you doing today, sir?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Like I said, me and Blake were like brothers, so we used to wrestle a lot. So I know how he can really hit hard. I'm bigger than Blake, but trust me, don't take his size for granted because, man, he has a killer left hook and he can hit you hard. And then also with Matt, one of his friends, Mitch, I'm going to throw Mitch out there, played a prank on him in high school, and Matt thought it was me. And then Matt just hit me in the face. I'm like, man, you know what? If he's going to take UFC serious, man, he can really hit hard. But, man, hey, these guys are great. I love them both. You know, I respect them not only as professionals, but as men, too, because these guys are their fathers, and it's just see them doing what they're doing with their kids, man, a beautiful family. Hey, you guys got my ultimate respect on all levels. So if people don't know who you are, let's start with Blake. Blake, you are a semi-retired boxer. I just don't think you can ever leave boxing at all. I think I can see you boxing until you're like 60. And but tell us, like, you know, who you are and, you know, how did you get into boxing?
My name's Blake Franklin. I've been boxing and kickboxing since I was 6 years old. Won the National Golden Gloves. I've done several things. Turned professional. You know, being a dad kind of changes things a little bit. Been in and out of the ring for the past several years, but now I'm just training a bunch of people in my gym, and that's what my passion is right now: training and teaching and giving back to the community, like people gave to me when I was a kid.
Yeah, and you know, you used to kickbox too. Like I remember just growing up seeing you. And correct me if I'm wrong. It was K1 boxing, is that right?
Yeah, K1 kickboxing. Essentially Muay Thai with no elbows. Is what it was. So yeah, I did that for a long, long time.
And how did you actually get into boxing? I mean, like that's something that, especially where we come from Louisiana, you don't really hear about people coming from Louisiana being a boxer.
Well, I started with Taekwondo when I was really young, and when I was at a Taekwondo tournament, I did a kickboxing exhibition, and the local legend boxing coach Ray Paxton was there, and he said, "Yeah, I would really like to work with that kid." Told my trainer at the time, Charlton Young, legend in his own right, and told me, "Yeah, bring him by the gym." And so from then on, I was at Ray's gym, I guess every day from a certain point. I think it was 3:45 to about 5 o'clock, and then I'd go to Charlton's and be there from about 5:30 to 7:30 at night, and that was my life until I was 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, I just remember seeing you just, man, your passion because some people get into boxing and you just don't have that passion for it because, you know, they kind of just do it as like a, you know, recreational activity. But you, man, you've made a career out of it. You train people. You have people in the UFC right now. Your work has been phenomenal. I mean, as a professional, you're 17, 8-2. You're 3-0 in kickboxing. You're 3-2 in MMA, man. So you have I see why they call you Trouble. I mean, because I know you, but you always get in trouble a lot. So that name that name suits you to the T.
I tell you what would put me in trouble is being in an MMA match with Danger over there. That dude would tie me up like a pretzel.
Yep. And like I said, actually, so let's switch over to Danger. Danger, man, like I said, I've been knowing you for a while. And as I told Blake, you know, some people do UFC or do like MMA, just like, oh, I see it on TV, I want to do it. But like him, you know, you've made this your work. I mean, currently you're number 10 in the UFC. But I mean, what made you get into the MMA and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I just started training after high school. Walked into Brent Mason's gym when I was an angry 18-year-old kid and been doing it ever since. You know, when I started, it certainly wasn't something that I thought would turn into a career. And I just trained, worked hard, kept doing it, built a reputation for myself. And, you know, over time, it became clear that maybe I could make a living doing it one day. And that's where we are now. We, you know, putting in the work and fighting at a high level.
All right. So that's that. I've introduced to you guys Matt and Blake. We're going to have more with these two champions right on the side of the break.
Hey everybody, Lee here. And guess what? The reviews are in and the Straight Up Show podcast is a hit. Don't believe me? Well, listen to what one of our guest panelists, Dr. Monique Thompson, has to say.
Listen, y'all listen in to Straight Up and support this podcast, because I listened in before I came on the show. I liked what I heard. They're really focusing on keeping things real and being real with you, and I like that approach. So you guys support this podcast.
So if you want to listen, donate to the show, have a subject idea, or even want to be a guest, just contact us at straightupshow@gmail.com. That's straightupshow@gmail.com.
Okay, so we're back with these two champions, Mr. Blake Trouble Franklin and Matt Danger Schnell, semi-retired boxer Blake, and UFC fighter Mr. MattSchnell. So a lot of people talk a lot of crap, especially fighters, man. Like, you know, oh man, I can fight anybody. And people think that boxing and MMA are the same thing. So Blake, you dabbled in like all kind of forms of fighting, MMA, kickboxing, and boxing. Can you just tell people the difference between, like, what exactly is different between boxing and MMA?
Boxing is one discipline. Boxing is one form of mixed martial arts. MMA is everything. Just because you're a good boxer doesn't mean you would be a good MMA fighter. You know, mixed martial arts has wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo, kickboxing, everything else that's involved in it. Danger will be far more efficient at telling you everything that goes into that. Boxing is just, it's the pugilism, the Olympic sport of boxing. Nothing wrong with it. I love it. I think it's a pure sport. I'm a huge fan of MMA and admire everything those guys can do. I train a few fighters now, and look, let me tell you something. They're a different breed than boxers. They work hard. They do their stand-up workout, then they go straight to jiu-jitsu and wrestling and everything else. The cardio is a different machine with them.
Boxing is just your hands, you know, just working your hands, obviously footwork and angles and everything. There's a lot of nuance to it when you're just boxing. And for me, I believe that boxing is probably one of the best bases for mixed martial arts because we wear little gloves, you know, very small gloves. And because of that, a lot of times guys with high level kickboxing ability and stuff, they let these little gloves sneak in. There's not much defense with them. So I think that, you know, if I was going to build a fighter from the ground up, I would want him to be able to box.
Oh, and you know, I've seen both of you train, or I've actually heard about how intense your training is. I mean, you see the people look at Rocky. I'm like, okay, oh, Rocky does this, so he jogs like this, or I watch Creed and he's running them out. Now, Blake, you broke down training for me, and some of the training stuff you told me, I'm like, that sounds inhuman, man. There's no way you train like that. So just tell people, as a boxer, I mean, how do you train?
And it's very it'll break you. It's you know, it's just as much mental as it is physical, because your body wants to give up half the time. You know, when you're in a full training camp for a 12-round fight for a professional fighter, you wake up there every morning, you go run. Your diet's just as big a regimen as anything else. You sit there, you have to eat at certain times, you have to put certain things in your body. Go through strength and conditioning workouts. You do your road work, you do your running, your sprinting, you do your weights and your, you know, and then you got sparring and boxing as well. You can't, I mean, it's not as easy as what people would think. And I'll tell you right now, the older you get, the harder it gets. My last camp for my last fight might be my last fight ever. Who knows? Hard to say goodbye forever, but it was the toughest I've ever been through. I had a strength and conditioning coach for the first time in about 5 or 6 years. And there were days where I was hyperventilating. I didn't want to move. I just laid there on the ground and didn't move for 15 or 20 minutes. It's intense.
Wow. And that's boxing. So, Danger, can you just tell us, I mean, how, because Blake even said that MMA is more intense. I mean, so, I've seen you drop weight, and you don't look the same from high school. You're like more lean. You look like a machine, man. So just tell me, how is
Well,
your training for the MMA and UFC?
yeah, I mean, weight cutting is a thing in and of itself. Both sports you have to be in phenomenal shape for. So I don't know what the difference in intensity would be. It's more of a difference in what exactly you focus on, because obviously with boxing, you have to box and you have to be in condition for that stuff. And I think probably strength training between boxing and MMA would be similar. Conditioning training as well, similar. The only difference is when you add the grappling aspect, it's hard to only do conditioning a certain way and then be able to have that translate to grappling, because these are two different entities, you know. So you can be in great boxing shape, great kickboxing shape, but as soon as somebody's hanging on your neck and pulling on it, it's just a different thing. So because of that, there's just a broader spectrum of techniques that you have to work on. But make no mistake, whether you're boxing or you're fighting MMA, you have to be in phenomenal shape. And it's really a matter of you figuring it out for yourself, because you have to be able to do things sustainable. If it were just about just going hard all the time and working out and running, a lot more people would be really good at fighting. But there's a lot of nuance to it. There's overtraining. You know, there's such thing as training too much and breaking down your body too much. So there's you got to figure it out. You know, I'm sure as Blake has over his, he's been doing this 20 years. I've been doing this 12 years now, and we're, as somebody who's still in it, I'm constantly tinkering with my preparation. I'm constantly making adjustments, because when push comes to shove, if we're being realistic, ain't nobody knows what the frick they're doing. We're all trying to figure this thing out as we go.
And
That's true. Going back to what Danger said a second ago, for me, it's if it's just running or hitting the bag and learning how to punch, everybody could do it. But it's all mental. It's about what you're willing to sacrifice inside and what you're willing to put your body through, and that goes to mental. When your body says stop, your mind can sit there and push it through. So, or when your mind wants to stop, rather, your body can continue. But no, he's exactly right. I can today. I'm not in shape at all. I'm way out of shape, but I could spar 12 or 15 rounds if I needed to. If you put me on the ground for about 2, I'm done. I'm completely out of it. I rolled for the first time in about a decade recently, and after about 3 or 4 minutes, I was done.
It's just, you're just engaging a different type of muscle group, and it's difficult. It's something that's difficult. Make no mistake, you take a phenomenal grappler and stand him up and throw some gloves on him, he looks like a fish out of water too. So that's what's so, there and I talk about this all the time with myself in particular. There's plenty of guys in this sport, in this game, that are better grapplers than me, better wrestlers than me. There are a lot of guys who can kickbox better than me. But what makes me stand out is the fact that I'm competent in all areas. So if you're a better boxer than me, well, I'm going to kickbox you. If you're better at striking than me, well, then I'm going to grapple you. And because I have a well-rounded game, I can kind of delineate and find different avenues and attacks to focus on. So there are plenty of guys in this sport who are better than me at individual aspects. But if we talk about a fist fight, I like my chances.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I know. Like I said, I've experienced that before already. So no, but when I've watched you both in person fight, I think the thing about both of y'all that I can say that compare is that you two are tuned in, and it's like you can see the focus. And like I play sports, and I can just see the focus on both of y'all's face. And sometimes both of y'all scare me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, man, I don't know. This is not gonna cut out. And then all of a sudden, bam, you get out of it. Matt, I've seen Blake my whole life. And I start with you, Matt. But the difference between amateur and pro boxing, like the levels of amateur and pro, how do you get to, first off, from amateur to pro, what's the difference? And then how do you get to that pro level? Because, the last time I seen you in person, you were doing an Access fight, and I interviewed you there. and after that, you just skyrocketed to professional to UFC. So what's the difference between the two, and how did you make that step?
Well, at the time, I was a professional. I was a professional fighting on the regional scene. And just like anything, you almost have to dominate the regional scene to move on to the next scene. And for me, for a long time, for as long as I've been fighting, I've been selling out arenas in Shreveport, Bossier. So I was on the mat. I was on the map for a long time. I had to get my record in order to get that call into the UFC. And for me, it was a little more difficult too to get there because my weight class is not exactly the most desirable. So it took a little more time than it typically does. I was 10-2 as a professional before I fought in the UFC, and I did the Ultimate Fighter, fought twice on the Ultimate Fighter. So you just have to make your way up. You got to keep grinding. And not to mention that I did fight an entire amateur career as well. I fought 13 amateur MMA fights. I boxed as an amateur as well. And plenty of grappling, plenty of things in between. And yeah, you just got to keep on grinding. But like I said, at the onset of this thing, when I started, we didn't think I was going to be a professional fighter. I was going to Bossier Parish Community College, working at Smoothie King, just training on the side because I enjoyed it.
And that's definitely a blessing in itself. I'm proud of you, man. Like I said, I've seen you from day one grinding, man. And you was even on Cage too. I remember that. Remember Cage? That was on a short-lived MTV show. And so many fighters that was on that show are not fighting anymore. And look at you now.
Hey, it may have been short-lived, but it made my life. My wife in there, she's a part of the Caged aftermath. So things went well. Cage did me good.
All right, look at that. I didn't know that. Wow. And then Blake, Matt said that you've been in the game 20 years, man. And then I know, correct me if I'm wrong, you went pro at a very early age. Like, how did that? I mean, is it the same thing that you just kept selling out, or how did you get to pro so fast?
Well, I've been doing this for altogether about 25 years now. I didn't go pro that young. I mean, now you've got some kids that are going pro at 16, 17 years old, and I personally, I guess each your own. But my body wasn't ready at 16 or 17 years old. I'm sure, I don't know, Matt's probably wasn't either. 95% of the world is not ready, but some of these kids today are just freaks. Like Devin Haney, he went pro at 16. I fought on a Showtime card here, and a kid went pro at 16. That's just unreal. Ultimately, I think you're more susceptible to injuries because you're getting hit by grown men at that age. When you turn pro, it's not, age groups or weight divisions anymore. It's grown men. So I turned pro when I was 19 years old, almost 20, I believe. It's been so long, it's hard to remember. Just haven't looked back. I should have probably waited a little bit longer, turn pro, let my body develop a little bit more, have a better team around me at the time rather than what I was doing. But I look, at one point in time, I was ranked number 7 in the world as a professional. So got no complaints. I had a good career. There's some fights I'd like to have before I hang them up, but who knows what the future holds. But right now I enjoy training everyone. I enjoy passing on knowledge. I'm turning into a decent trainer. I train, one of the people that I train a lot. Danger mentioned Mason a few minutes ago. I trained Brent's wife, Victoria, on her stand up, and we're getting a shot with the UFC in a few weeks. So really looking forward to seeing what the future holds, helping and passing on some knowledge.
Yeah, and we're going to actually talk about their training and what their other outside projects they're doing outside of their careers coming next on Side of the Break. Stay tuned.
What's up, everybody? Brandon here with Straight Up. We want you to be mindful of the importance of wearing a mask out in public. We know it's uncomfortable, but believe it or not, you are saving a life. This virus has hit our community hard, and scientists are still looking for a vaccine. So wash your hands, practice social distancing, and most importantly,
wear a damn mask.
Tired of the same old boring clothes? Want to support your favorite podcast but don't know how? Well, you're in luck. The Straight Up Show podcast store is finally here. In our Teespring shop, you can find all the merch that tells the world you're keeping it straight up. From t-shirts to masks to even leggings, our store has you covered. Just visit straightupshowpodcast.com and click that merchandise button. That's STR8 upshowpodcast.com. MattSchnell.com.
All right, so we're back with these guys. As Blake said before, that he's doing a lot of training, and then, like I said, I've seen these guys blossom from what people say small town to Shreveport, Louisiana. Well, I've seen these guys become basically, in my opinion, local, but now nationally ranked celebrities. And in my opinion, in the fighting world, Blake, you're giving back to your community, and people don't know where Paxton's gym at, but with my first introduction to boxing itself, it wasn't Mike Tyson. Actually, it was Blake. Blake introduced me to boxing, and it was surprisingly in a lower income neighborhood. And ever since then, even though Blake's professional, he gives back. And Blake, just tell us about, you giving back and what you're doing now. You kind of touched on it a little bit before, but go a little bit more in depth about it if you don't mind.
Oh, no problem. From the time I was a kid, Ray Paxton and Charles Young were with me. More so Ray later on after I kind of moved towards boxing more. Then about 5 or 6 years ago, Ray passed away, and they had a coach for a little while, and that didn't work out. And so I got a phone call one day asking me if I'd be interested in coming there working with a couple of their guys, and it just went from there. About 2 years ago, I just decided it was time to make my own name. I love Ray. I will always love Pax's Gym. It's still there to this day, so if anybody ever needs anything, they're more than welcome. They're off of Hearn and Fulton. Place will always have a soft spot in my heart. And but now I've moved on. I have my own boxing gym. I've got one of the number one ranked kids in the country that I train. I've started him from scratch. I've got a really good team. I trained a couple of MMA fighters. I trained Michael Mano, who's probably going to turn pro here soon in the next year or so. He's really talented. His stand-up's evolving every day. Works hard. Victoria Leonardo, she's just got signed with the UFC or for the Contender Series. Hopefully, big things in her future. She works hard, very, very hard. I just enjoy giving back and helping people improve and seeing things that from 25 years experience in the ring. And I've been blessed to work with Floyd Mayweather Sr., Marlon Thomas, Leonardo Tyner, Sparky McDuffie, Ray Paxton. I've had a plethora of boxing who's that I've had the privilege of working with. And so I've gained some knowledge that not everybody has. And so it's just one of those things to where trying to give back a little bit.
That's great, man. I love to hear that story, man. Like I said, just, I didn't know boxing, of course people see it on TV, but, really, I want to thank you for introducing me to boxing, man, because I love it and it gives me a chance to actually see it, and a lot of pro athletes actually turn into MMA to get their bodies in shape. And Matt, I know you have a busy schedule. You stay busy more than anybody I've seen. You are in the UFC, but you give back as well. Just tell us, how outside of what you're doing right now, what else do you do and what do you have coming up?
Here lately, I've really been focused on my fight career, and there for a while I was also teaching, had me a little crew in the Houston area, but I moved out to Humble. Me and my wife bought a house, so I'm kind of settling out here in the suburbs. And here lately I've been really focused on my career, and I do train with other guys and help them along. I'll be in Shreveport for the AKA fights coming up. I'm sure Blake will have a couple of guys on that card, and I've got a couple of my proteges on there too. But I no longer am running a class or anything of the sort. I don't have a team of my own right now because I've been focused on my fight and my career. So I will be fighting December 19th in Las Vegas. I'm fighting Tyson Nam at the UFC Apex. So that's what's next for me. We were scheduled to fight in September. I had some issues with some weight and wasn't able to make my last fight. So I did the only thing I knew how to do, and we rebooked it, and we're going to try and make it right. So felt bad that things went the way they did, but ultimately it's going to be okay in the end. And feeling good about things. I'm one of the best in the world.
Hey, I love it. And I agree with those. I'm pretty sure Trouble can too. One thing about you and Trouble, y'all have a crazy support system. And that has to mean a lot to both of y'all, that people back y'all up so much and just give y'all so much love, whether it's win, lose, or draw. Y'all have this love that, most celebrities don't even see.
Absolutely. It's a blessing.
Yeah. And one thing you said, Blake, that I did not know is that you sparred with Trouble. I want to know how that went and when did this happen?
Oh, sparring with danger?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I was
It
getting
was
ready for Golden Gloves. You came in. I was training at Karate Mafia, and yeah, we got a couple rounds.
Yeah, it's been back in the day. We've been in this game for a while. You don't remember every round you've done, I promise. At least I don't. Maybe it's damage. I don't know.
Well, like I said, man, you guys are great. So we're wrapping up things with Blake and Matt, Blake Trouble Franklin and Matt Danger Schnell. So the reason why I have you guys here today, because we know that Mike Tyson is coming out the woodworks to fight. Blake, you've met Mike Tyson. So, I mean, do you think this is a good draw for him to get out of boxing? You see him in shape. He's been phenomenal shape. Do you think he can actually go 12 rounds, or do you think it'll last 12 rounds?
It's only scheduled for, I believe, 8
Thank
or
God.
10. Yeah.
It should be scheduled for 5 because come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hold on. Here's my opinion, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm actually excited to see what Tyson can do. I don't think that he hasn't sustained a lot of damage, and if he's his problem was never lack of skill or anything. It was motivation, and the last thing that goes for a boxer is power. The first thing that goes is speed and timing. And so, to me, this is a horrible, horrible idea for Roy Jones, because while Roy Jones was out there taking fights for money and fighting people that he shouldn't have been fighting and getting knocked out, Mike Tyson was sitting on the couch, smoking weed or doing whatever he wanted to do and giving his body time to recover. And now it seems like, from the videos, which can be deceiving, he looks like his old animal self. But I do know for a fact that power is the last thing to go. And one of the first things to go is your legs and movement and your timing and speed. And those are things that Roy Jones Jr. has always relied upon in the ring, and getting out of the way from things, using angles and moving, and not necessarily having your hands in the right spot. And when Tyson throws a couple of shots, he's going to throw the left hook and an overhand right and maybe an uppercut. And if Roy can't get out of the way, it's going to be a quick night. I don't think he'll be able to get out of the way, honestly. I think Danger said 5. He wish it was scheduled for 5 rounds. I don't think it's going to go 2. I think the moment Mike Tyson cuts off the ring and hits him, it's going to be night-night Irene.
Danger?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think the exact opposite. No offense, Blake.
None taken.
I think that and that is an interesting point. Roy Jones has taken more damage over the years, and Mike Tyson will certainly be more well-rested. But I do believe that the game of boxing does change over time, and Roy Jones has done a great job. Even in his later years, he's still been competitive. And, Mike can crack. We know that. Mike does look good on pads. I haven't seen one video of him actually sparring somebody. And not only that, furthermore, all these guys do a bunch of steroids. So seeing Mike in shape, it makes me just be like, bruh, I mean, 6 months ago you were a butterball. Now you're freaking shredded. Come on. But I'll be watching. I tell you that. I look forward to it, and it will be fun. It should be a spectacle. But I've got Roy Jones strictly on the principle that he has been more active. And Blake's argument is that that's why Roy Jones will fall, which is a fair argument. But I feel that his activity, his him having fought here in the last couple of years will be a benefit, not necessarily something that sets him back. So
I would generally agree with you. The only reason I say otherwise is because Roy has not always been the person to get his hands back up. He was able to get out of things. And the older he's gotten and the longer he's been doing it, the more you've seen that people that would never, ever have caught him or touch him in any way, shape, or form have been able to put leather on him. And so without him being able to get out of the way, I just – Mike Tyson coming out with any type of intensity, I don't think Roy's going to be able to get out of the way. I've seen Roy hitting pads lately and seen him spar. I've got a friend that's in camp with him. I could be wrong. Look, we're all wrong.
Yeah, it's fighting.
It's the reason it's fighting. Everybody's gonna throw a punch or throw a kick, and something always lands. But I would just, if I was a betting man, I'd put money on Mike, just because it just seems like it's the perfect storm for Roy.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Wow. I mean, I think that we're all just wanting a good show. I think that's what we're all looking for is a good show. And I think that, it's nostalgia. People, seeing two legendary fighters pick the gloves back up and, here we go. But I got to ask y'all, like, Danger said something that I didn't know. So that boxing has changed a lot. So with that being said, I want to ask y'all just, maybe your top two fighters, whether it's UFC or professional boxing. Who are your top favorite fighters of all time? Andrew first.
Me first. Okay. Well, I'm when speaking about how the game has changed, boxing is a different game than mixed martial arts, and there's less motion of how far it can change. And boxing has also been around for a very, very long time. So I don't know if it's changed as much as mixed martial arts has, because every 2-3 years, the game of mixed martial arts has come full circle. I think about when I started, walking into Brent Mason's gym, if I would have went in and thrown a spinning technique, they would have laughed me out of the place and told me to never come back. Now spinning techniques are everything that, that's what everybody wants to see. And it's just changed a lot. Boxing is a little different. So I won't speak out of turn on that. As far as my favorite fighters go, mixed martial artists, my favorite of all time would have to be Frankie Edgar and Robbie Lawler. Those are my two guys. And I've actually had the pleasure of fighting on cards with both of those guys and being in the room with them. And, more than their prowess and their wins, I respect the men they are. And, a guy like Frankie Edgar gets beat up a whole fight, comes back, wins the fight. Guy like Robbie Lawler, kind of fell out of love with the sport and then came back and remotivated and won the championship of the world and did it in an amazing way. So those two guys, to me, locked in as my all-time favorite MMA fighters.
All right. Well, Blake, what about you?
Well, since Danger went MMA, I'll go boxing. And I agree with him. MMA is kind of growing at such a, fast rate. It's ever evolving. There's more techniques being added into it. There's more forms of martial arts people are using. Boxing's changed. If you would have looked at, people talked about Muhammad Ali being the greatest, but he wasn't. He was just the first heavyweight to actually box and not just stand in front of somebody and throw 2 or 3 punches, hold their hands up and see who could last longer. The game evolves. It's been around so much longer that the evolution of it goes in gradual stages rather than every 2 or 3 years. But my favorite two fighters, number 2 would probably have to be Arturo Gatti. Not the most technically sound, but was always in a war, always banging. Didn't matter how hard he got hit, he was coming back. Second, that was my second. My first would probably be Oscar De La Hoya, from the technically sound fighter. Great left hook, great jab, on his toes all the time. Never ducked anyone, which is a bad problem in boxing today. Nobody wants to fight the champ. Nobody wants to fight each other. It's all about money and business today. De La Hoya went up and down weight divisions, fought everybody there was, and so kind of respect Oscar.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, it's been my pleasure talking to you guys. I know Matt said that you respect the man, and with that being said, Danger and Trouble, I told you once before, I respect both of you, not only for your careers, but me seeing y'all as children growing up to men, and y'all have my respect on that level. But before y'all go, Matt, well, let's start with Blake. How can people reach you and be in contact with you, or maybe join your school?
Sure. Yeah. Anybody on Facebook or Instagram, it's Trouble Boxing Gym, or reach out to me, Blake Franklin. Just hit me up. I'm really accessible. I'll be more than happy to help them.
All right. And Danger, I know you got a fight coming up on December 19th. And how can people follow you on social media and keep in contact with all your fights?
Yeah, just either MattSchnell on Facebook or Danger_Caged. That's on Twitter, Instagram, and everything in between. But yeah, y'all follow along. Let's go. About to whip this guy coming up.
All right, December 19th. MattSchnell going up against, is that pronounced it right? Nam, is it right?
Tyson Nam.
Tyson Nam coming up on December 19th, flyweight bout. Make sure you guys tune into it because I stayed up all night seeing him fight overseas, and then had me scared for a little bit. Then all of a sudden, next thing I know, he's tapping out. I'm like, how'd you do that, Matt? Like, just I don't know, man. You're very technical, and I like to see you fight. I like to see you throw hands, Blake. I like to see you throw hands too. I don't want you to give up. I don't want you to stop, boxing. But I know you're getting, I see. No, dude, no. I see you doing the whole Mike Tyson thing in like a couple of years, man. Because I don't think you can leave boxing, man. So I don't want to see you go, but.
Hey, that's Blake. Listen, I can't wait to retire. I'm done with this.
Look, bro, look. See. The problem I have, and Danger will understand this too. He already does this. I love it. I would do it right now. If they got to call me and said, "Hey, I got to fight for you in a month," I'd be like all about it. I love the training. I love it. I like to eat now. I'm sorry. I'm from Louisiana. I'm all about eating. When you for me now, I have to. I eat 5 meals a day, and it's all portion controlled and everything. And there's no flavor. It's 2 gallons of water, 1.5 gallons of water. It's regimented. I've been doing this for 20-something years. I'm tired of it, bro. If I want to have a Coke or have a cheeseburger, I want to be able to have a Coke and a cheeseburger. And that's the real issue that it is with me more than anything. And that may sound bad, but that's just me.
Hey, that's not just you. We can all agree on that.
Good deal.
All right. Well, like I said, I want to thank Matt, Danger, Schnell, and Blake, Trouble Franklin, good friends of mine, 2 professional fighters. Love them both. If you guys have not heard about them, you will. And even though Blake says he's retiring, he's not going anywhere. He's staying. And MattSchnell, number 10 in the world right now. Make sure you guys stay tuned. But hey, the fight happens this weekend. Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. Blake has Tyson, and surprisingly, Schnell has Roy Jones Jr.
Hey, let's make it interesting, Blake. I'll buy you dinner. I'll buy you dinner. Mike Tyson wins, vice versa.
We can do that. I got it.
Let's go.
Do that.
And it has to be a cheeseburger.
Hey, well, for him to be after his fight, victory dinner for him.
There we go.
And if you're in the Shreveport area, make sure you guys get behind these guys because they're not hidden gems. People know about them, but hey, I know you guys are just saying it's crazy, but they do our city proud, and I'm proud to say that these guys have represented not only Blake to our country, but same with Matt. These guys are great men, great fighters. But hey, stay tuned. This fight, not only on this upcoming Saturday, but December 19th, Matt will win. I guarantee it. Hey guys, thank y'all so much once again.
Thanks, Calvin.
Thanks, Calvin.